And joining us to talk about some of the legal issues in this controversy is attorney David Bonilla with the Bonilla Law Firm.
David, thank you for being here tonight.
It's Brad, and thank you for having me.
First question, did the passenger in the video have a right to say no and to refuse to leave the plane?
Well, I think what most passengers don't understand is that when they buy a ticket, the ticket has a contract of carriage that comes along with it. And that contract of carriage is something that they have to agree to. And they agree to involuntarily being boarded, disembarked from an airplane. So I think the passenger did not have a right pursuant to the contract he purchased.
So, does this passenger, does he have a case to sue the airline with, even though he essentially signed this contract, as you say?
So at this point, it becomes almost a situation of how do you handle a trespasser, or how do you handle someone you accuse of shoplifting? And in that type of circumstance, it would become you have a right to use reasonable force to remove him from the airplane. It was reasonable force used. That's a fact question. If you look at the extent of the injuries he suffered, I think a lot of people will come to the conclusion that this was very excessive force that was used.
Now, according to United Airlines, the flight crew followed proper procedures in this situation. In your opinion, should there be different policies put in place so this doesn't happen again?
Well, I think that the number one most important policy is make sure that people don't get onto the airplane before they're involuntarily denied boarding. You want to make sure that they are not on that plane where someone has to be in a position to potentially be forcibly removed. That could have prevented this whole thing from happening.
I'm going to ask you to prognosticate just a little bit, but if this individual does try to sue this airline, how do you think the case could go?
Well, I think there's a lot of public sympathy because a lot of travelers could see themselves in the exact same situation. I certainly would anticipate that at a minimum a settlement would be reached with United and this passenger.
Looking ahead, what advice would you give to passengers who may be put in this situation in the future? They're asked to leave, and yes, maybe it would be an inconvenience to them.
Well, again, United has the certain policies and procedures put in place. If you are asked to leave, certainly you are entitled to recover compensation pursuant to the contract of carriage that the airlines has. Now, if you're asked to leave, you certainly can protest, but I think at the end of the day, nobody would want to be drug off an airplane. So I would certainly tell passengers that unfortunately in most circumstances they would have to leave or they would be in the exact same situation.
Well, this certainly has, I think, all of us thinking about, what would we do and thinking about this situation more obviously with that video. Mr. Bonilla with the Bonilla Law Firm, we thank you very much for sharing your perspective with us tonight.
Yes, thank you for having me.